Welcome back to Estate Agency Mastery, Season 3, Episode 5. Now, if you've got value so far, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Today, I have got one of my business partners, someone in the estate agency arena you will definitely know, but we're not going to talk about their background, we're not going to talk about what they've done in the industry. What we are going to talk about is what you want to hear. So, Kenny, if you're considering going self-employed or going on this bespoke personal agency, business ownership, whatever the models call it, what are 3 things that you should be doing right now? So what's your first tip for me?
Firstly, you need to make sure that you have clear in your mind that one of the key principles of running your own personal agency is that you need to be capable of lead generation. So as much of the preparation you can do in advance of making that decision, which vendors have you worked with over the years, which investors have you worked with, which landlords have you engaged with, all of those customers that you built relationships over the years, you need to make sure you have access to those people and you're going to inform them that you've got your own personal agency space. Secondly, I would be making sure that I'm building my social channels now. I'd be thinking about how I build my social presence in my hyperlocal market to make sure I'm getting followers, people that are interested potentially in selling in the future, people that are interested in property and content and market data about their particular area and about their property. Start building that following now. And thirdly, do research into those models that are out there that could well be a partner for you in the future. Now, clearly, being one of the executive directors at TA UK, I'm a great believer that TA UK offer the most comprehensive support package and initiatives in the personal agent space. But I would do your research, engage with all the models that are out there, and find the one that best fits for you.
Okay, so if we go with point 1 in terms of reaching out to people, let's say it's your first week or you've just started in this space, or maybe it's 2 or 3 weeks before you've made that jump and you're having those initial conversations. How do you go about it? What do you say? Is it the hard sell? Is it, listen, I'm thinking of doing this, would you follow me? What's the best conversational approach to this?
Well, look, I think you try and educate the friends and family and vendors and landlords and investors you worked with in the past to say that the market, the property market, the estate agency market is moving in this direction, and you're going to make the decision to join the personal agent space. That actually the high street is no longer important, and the cost and expense of the high street isn't something that's important to a particular seller when they move home. And actually, you wanting to deal with somebody from start to finish is critical to the reputation that you want to build up. So it's about educating those people that you've had contact with in the past that the market's changing, that you're going to embrace that change, that you're going into the market to be a personal agent, and you would love to have their support when you make that decision in the future.
Makes sense. So one of the challenges I always set people is, if you are going to go and do this, or you're thinking about doing it, is go and create a list of 300 people, your uncle, your cousin, your friend, your brother, whoever it is that will support you. Get their email and get their personal phone number, so when you do start, you've got that list to run through. You've got people to send your email content to. But ultimately, if you start it and you don't stop it, or you don't quite get there, that's almost an acid test for me of, is this self-employed? Is this business ownership space right for you? Because you have to be a self-starter, right?
No doubt. You have to lay the foundations. You have to be willing to put in a bit of effort in advance of coming into the space to make sure that you have those conversations, those relationships built up where you can have those conversations, because it's about trying to have that sort of those conversations and try and build something off the back of it. So that advice is very, very important. And simple things like trying to create a list of 300 people will be a great start for anyone thinking about coming into this personal agent space.
And arguably it's a lot easier now because we've got proof of concept. Whatever model you look at, right, this space is growing, and it's growing en masse. It's better for the agent, it's better for the end user, the client. So we've got that social proof. So I'd argue it's a lot easier to have those conversations now when your friends, family, your sphere probably know 1 or 2 personal agents anyway. So I think those conversations are easier. But let's move on to point 2 then. So the social media piece. How do you become, Chris Watkin calls it the mayor of your town, we call it TA UK, becoming hyper-local. We've got brilliant agents in our business that do the top 50 streets in their local area or what have you. If you were to pick 3 or 4 things on socials that you would do to get ready or to start positioning yourself as that hyper-local expert, what would you do?
Well, firstly, I'll say, Chris, the 4 big portfolios on social media are fashion, travel, sport, and property. So you're already going into a space that's interesting to people on social media. They're consuming content around property on a day-by-day basis. So the audience is out there and ready to engage. What you've got to do is firstly create interesting content. And look, Steph and the founders at TA UK are very passionate about hyperlocal. And you need to start building your hyperlocal market of followers as soon as you make the decision that you want to go into the space. And it's about sharing property data, information about how the market's going, trends, become that authoritative person in your market for property, for mortgage rates, for all sorts of things that would be interesting. But it's also about trying to make sure your content is interesting and engaging. So having proper professionals that can help you with that content to make sure that you catch people's imagination, you catch their attention, they like it, they comment, and they want to follow you. So I think that's the great thing about it, Chris, is that property is an interesting subject. The mass audience is out there wanting to engage. You just got to be choosing the elements that you want to share and make it interesting, and make sure you get professional help.
Makes sense. There's two things I want to add to that. The first one is a guy called Ollie Smith. We're recording this on the south coast, and he's not a million miles away from here. And he's put his own unique spin on it, where he will do the history of the street, and Brilliant. That's absolutely exploded for him. He puts that in his Facebook groups and whatever else, which is great. We've got Dan Brownhill, which religiously up in Manchester will do the top 50 streets, I think, in Poynton. And again, it's creating that. I'm not just an estate agent. I'm someone that lives in the area. I'm someone that's passionate about the area. I happen to transact and will help you buy and sell and move. But I really love where I'm from, and I'm going to give you genuine insights because no one else is doing it. So anything else you'd add to the social media bit before we move on to the last point? Yeah,
look, you mentioned two great examples of people that are great personal agents that have really built a social media following already. One of the interesting things I see both with Oliver and with Dan is they've used the ability to try and get a following from all of the local businesses that are out there. Yeah. So one critical thing is going to those local businesses, doing some form of content that showcases that particular business, and that business that might have 2,500 followers will tag you and you tag them into that interesting content, which will allow 2,500 of the followers of that business to start thinking about what you're going to provide. So I think that's really interesting, and I've seen Dan Brownhill do that brilliantly, and Oliver. And again, that's one of the professionals that told me about that a few months ago, and it's definitely been highly effective.
There's a guy called Anthony Dowling in our business as well, who, great guy. When he started with us a couple of years ago, he went out to all the local independent electricians and said, right, I'm going to have one electrician, I'm going to have one chippy, one butcher, whatever, and created a digital pamphlet which he said I'll then share. And what was incredible then, he said, I'm going to have 50 local businesses I'm going to endorse and support. All I ask is, can you share it on your socials and what have you? But he's now got 50 cheerleaders of people in the town. If Absolutely. A chippy's out or a sparky's out, oh, why are you rewiring? Oh, we're thinking of selling. Let me put my mate Anthony onto you. He's brilliant. He's really, really good. And it's just about embedding yourself in the community. And that, I think one of the things in the high street office, you don't often get a chance to do that. You're stuck behind your desk. If you say, hey, can I go for a coffee with the local butcher, your branch manager's going to say, well, what are you doing? And that's the beauty of our model. I really, really love it. Okay, fine.
And the reality as well, Chris, is that you're not allowed to use your own personal socials to showcase what you do when you work for a traditional high street agent. So that's very, very powerful what Anthony's doing. And look, if you want to be a successful hyperlocal agent, you've got to get to know those local businesses because they're good conversation openers to say, do you use the butchers? Do you use the local pub? Do you go to this? Do you go to that? So it just, again, demonstrates you're an authority in that area in terms of hyperlocal and in terms of the property market.
It does. Now, I could talk about Matt Griffiths over in Wales as well. We were speaking about him yesterday and all the things he does. I think my final tip on this bit would be, go and follow these agents and R&D it. I call it rip it off and deploy. Don't steal it verbatim, but if they're doing a really good idea or the top 50 streets, what's stopping you from going and doing that, right? And using the same systems and models that are getting these guys really, really effective. And I think the final thing I want to say on this is, a lot of people go, oh, I don't want to go door knocking if I set up self-employed estate agency or business ownership or personal agency, again, whatever we want to call it. But actually, I personally believe you should do, but I know a number of agents that have come in and they've hit socials that well that they have become kind of the mayor of their town, combined with canvassing and really sharp direct mail and everything else. that have allowed them to go very, very big businesses without actually knocking on a door. For me, when you combine the two, that's when the power really happens. So
No doubt.
we'll move on from that. So your third point was, now you're going to have to try and stay broker agnostic here. I know it's going to be hard, but if we're off to do the research on the different models, what is it you'd specifically, 3, 4, 5 points you'd specifically be looking for that will help any agent listening to this make the decision to join the best brokerage for them?
Yeah, look, I absolutely firmly believe that everyone should do their research, and I actively encourage, and I speak to many agents on a day-by-day basis, that if they're considering coming into this space, go and look at all of the models, because one might be better for them. We have some real clear principles that I think are important to the agents that join TA UK, and we explain them and articulate them, but clearly other models have got their own USPs, and I think it's important that everyone goes and looks at that. Firstly, I think the most important is where you're going to get the most support. Who is going to give you the onboarding, give you the tools to go and be successful? Critically, everybody that comes into TA UK or into any of these models generally come with experience. But it's very different. High street experience is very different to coming into the personal agent space. So I think being onboarded and a comprehensive onboarding program. And here at TA UK, we're lucky to have one of our very best, very founding agents, Nick Brown, that does our onboarding. And he's developed a team of our current highest performing agents that are coming into his team next year to support him on coaching, to help that onboarding process. And it's 12 weeks. It's really comprehensive, Chris. It's not 12 weeks, 10 hours every day for 12 weeks, but it's really, really comprehensive that gives people a real great insight and all the tools for them to go and be successful early on. So firstly, it's very much about the support you're going to get from an onboarding perspective. Secondly, it's very, very important then to understand how you're going to support me to build my business. What I mean by that is that as you grow and develop your business, you're going to be in lots of appointments, viewings, valuations, you're going to be doing marketing reviews, you're going to be marketing shoots, you're going to be very busy. And what you need is a support network around you that allows you to make sure that you can focus on high payoff activities like those things I've just described, but somebody's going to do some of the more administration tasks to help you to make sure you're not coming out of appointments and embarking into lots of other stuff that's going to take up your time. So do you have an agent that's going to help you with marketing, with telephone answering, with booking valuations, booking viewings, doing your compliance, helping you? Are they going to deliver the technology, the marketing suites? All of those types of things are critical when making this decision. So how are they going to onboard you? How are they going to support you? And then also it's how do the people that are running the business think? Because I think that's really critical. Do they think around initiatives and ideas that are going to help me be successful, that are going to help me provide for my family, that are going to help me build a really profitable business? And I think, again, at TA UK, the founders and the exec team spend a lot of their time thinking about initiatives that are very different to what you would find in the traditional models, that are really bespoke for the personal agent space, that are highly, highly effective, that add significant value to all of our agents' businesses. So they're the three things I would primarily look at. Is how they're going to onboard me, how they're going to teach me to be a personal agent, how are they going to support me to be a successful personal agent, and what initiatives and the thinking behind the people that lead the business are going to help me to be successful for the long term, because it is about making sure that the personal agent space is here to stay, because it very much is, and I think TA UK think very deeply about all of those three things.
You've touched on something that I wanted to dive into a little bit, and that is you could be a world-class estate agent, but business ownership is a completely different skill set. And I was saying to a guy yesterday we've just taken on in North London, exactly that. I said, you need to forget that you're a world-class estate agent for the moment. I said, your number one job is you are now a lead generation. You're in the lead generation business, because you can't be world-class on this piece here unless you are super at getting those valuations in, so we can get you to the stage where you actually pick and choose your clients. It's not I'm just taking that one for the sake of it. I think the second thing also, when you're looking at whatever brokerage you are considering, is you're completely right in the future direction, because I believe, and this is why I merged my business into TA UK, I believe we're in an arms race and there'll be 2 or 3 winners, and I think the smaller brokerages won't be able to compete with the tech play in the next 2 or 3 years, or the value proposition or the economies of scale that the larger brokerages get to afford, essentially. But the subtle nuance there for me is, Are you going to be a number in that, or are you going to be someone that's well received and a business partner? So that's just something I wanted to touch on. So that's it from me. But one final curveball question I ask everyone. Don't worry, it's not too hard. If you were to pick one lead generation activity and you were to start your estate agency business tomorrow, having done all these 3 things that we mentioned today, what's the one most effective lead generation strategy you would implement?
Well, that's an interesting question, Chris, because I think estate agency is probably one of the easiest businesses or easiest industries to lead generate, because 40% of what's currently on the market in your local area will ultimately sell with a second agent. So I think it's really important that you get the opportunity to go out and engage and communicate and talk and build relationships with those particular people on the market. So from my perspective, absolutely communicating and engaging, whether that's door knocking, whether that's delivering something, whether that's catching somebody in the front garden, go out and engage with the homeowners that are on the market in your community, get contact details, keep in touch with them, build relationships. It really is that easy. And if you do those things on a relentless basis, there's no question that it makes sense, and progress compounds. Every little bit of progress you make every day compounds into a multiple that ultimately helps you be successful in your business. So that's as simple as I would say is, if you were running a dog walking business and you were out walking a number of dogs and you saw people out walking dogs, you would stop, engage with them. You would say, here's my business card. If you're ever struggling because of the weather, or you go on holiday and you need somebody to walk your dogs, give me a shout, give me a call. You would engage with the dog walking community. If you're an estate agent, you've got to go out and engage with the homeowning public, and especially those that are on the market in your hyper-local area.
Yeah, and the final thing I'll add to that is you're completely right in the compound. Go back week after week to the same properties that still haven't sold and add value.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. So if you have enjoyed today and you've taken value from any of the podcast series so far, please do like and subscribe. But for everyone here at Estate Agency Mastery, thank you for watching.